Hi everyone, it's Marliese Richmond from Three Bears Prints here, and today I'm going to show you how I sharpen my Swiss cutting tools. I'm not saying I'm a great sharpener, this is just the technique that I've developed over the years. So I've done a blog post about this because it's quite hard to show you in detail on the phone, but one essential piece of equipment for me is a magnifying glass so that I can see the edge of the cutting tools, and if you can see light glancing off the end of the cutting tool, that means that it's a bit blunt. If the edge of your cutting tool is completely sharp, you won't be able to see any light glinting off the cutting edge. So I highly recommend purchasing a little magnifying glass so that you can keep an eye on how blunt or otherwise your cutting tools are. So I can see that this has got a tiny bit of light glinting off the edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my whetstone to just take that down so that it's a much finer edge. This is my whetstone. One side is 3000 grit and the other side is 1000 grit. The lower the number, the coarser your stone is. So I'm going to start off on this blue side, which is the coarser side, just to do most of the work. Then I'm going to finish it off on this smoother side, and then finally I'm going to finish it off with a leather strop and some honing paste. And you'll notice that I keep my whetstone in a bottle of water. So that's to protect it and make sure that I have lots of slurry when I shape my tools. Before I start, I want to show you that my tools have a beveled edge. So you have to try and maintain that beveled edge. You don't want to wear that down. So when you are sharpening your tools, you just have to be really cautious, don't go too fast, and regularly check with the magnifying glass how the sharpening process is going. So I use two different movements when I'm sharpening my tools. I follow the curve of the front of the sharpening tool so that it's kept even on either side, like so. And then I'll sharpen where I cut most often with the base of the tool by rubbing it along like so. And as you can see, I'm going in at the angle of the cutting tool so that I maintain that angle. And then every so often I check the edge of my cutting tool. So already that has knocked off the area that was causing me problems. So now I'm going to just refine it on the finer grit. So I'm using the same movements as you can see. So I'm just taking off the edges of the U shape and then sharpening further along the base where I do most of my cutting. And like I say, just go really cautiously. You don't want to do too much sharpening at once, or you might lose the shape of your tool. And again, check the edges just to see how much you have knocked off. And then, once I'm happy that I've knocked off the edges, I get my honing paste, rub it into my leather strop, and then cut into the leather strop with my tool. And this will also give you a good indication as to whether you've managed to sharpen your tool or not. Again, I do that motion of turning it over and following the edge of the curve, just rotating my tool in my hand so that I get all the edges honed and sharpened. And it's really good practice before you start using any tool that you always use your leather strop and honing paste, because it's so much easier to cut lino if your tools are really sharp. I really need a new leather strop. So I have a test piece of lino, and I'm just going to go in it at the angle, and as you can see, that's cutting through the lino really easily. So that is the technique I use for sharpening my lino cutting tools.